everybody. Welcome back to Big Gay Book Club. And today we're going to, yes, woo indeed. Today we're going to explore the world of Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan. And I will tell you, I read this quite a while ago when it came out. And then when I picked it for our book club, I reread it and then realized absolutely how much material in this was a little bit triggering for, or would be triggering for a lot of people. So I want to give everyone that warning up at the top. There is a lot of references to SA and abuse in this book because of the plot itself. So just be forewarned about that. But otherwise, let's get into it. So
let's do it. Got coffee. We're ready.
Coffee, our super cool mugs. You've got Killing Eve. I've got May You Have.
Speaking of drama, I have Killing Eve mug.
Yes, you do, and yes. I have.
What you got?
May you have the confidence of a mediocre white guy.
That's actually perfect for this book, honestly. So tell us about it, Bree. Let's get into it.
So, have you ever wanted to read a fantasy book with a lot of set in like an Asian world? I always have, and this was the first one I found that did that had a queer romance at the center. So the world is very interesting. You have
indeed.
You have the different castes. So we'll start with paper caste, which is the lowest on the totem pole, and those are humans. And then you've got your why is my brain
steel cast?
Steel. I want to say silver for some reason. Steel cast, which is
that'd be amazing.
Part demon, part human. So these people / creatures would have attributes of both, but as part demon, they display animal-like features. So they would have, say, the ears of a cougar or a leopard, and then like a human face, but a leopard tail. So
honestly, now that you said that, there weren't enough cougars in this book.
No, there were not.
There were not. Just side note.
But you do get to meet some more cats in book 2, so
absolutely,
which I enjoyed. But
and who's the last cast?
The last cast are the. Why is my brain again?
I think it's just demon, straight up demon.
I think it is. Yeah. But don't they? Whatever.
No, they're called the demon cast. Moon cast. That's it. My bad.
I'm so bad at this today. I'm sorry.
Read this book.
We read this book, but it's been a minute. I promise. And my notes. I had more notes, but I think I opened the wrong one.
That's anyway, okay. We could get it done.
So Mooncast are all demon, so they display more of the animal features and in a humanoid form. So it would be like a bull, but in a humanoid body.
Ugh, yeah.
So you've got features of both. And it was always kind of hard for me to imagine it in my head, especially like the facial features that she describes. Because she describes the king as handsome.
Right.
A handsome bull with the long, elongated face. And I'm like, how is that handsome?
I don't know either. I was just picturing a bull's head on a human's body, and I was like, how is this handsome? Is she using this word correctly? She's so gay. She doesn't understand what that means.
Yes, I don't know. But I'm sure that it makes sense in her head, and I can kind of see it because I think about that demon in Buffy season. What season was that? 6? The musical episode?
Oh, yes.
That demon guy. So I kind of think of his face.
Okay, I can see that.
Like the dancing demon?
Yeah.
From the musical, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
That's not Hush, never mind. The musical episode is season 6.
Yeah, it's season 6. Hush is 4. If you let us get into Buffy, we'll talk about it all day. But anyway.
Yes, literally. Moving on.
Let's talk about our main character. Lay.
Yes.
she is a paper cast girl. However, she has these eyes that set her apart from all the other paper casts people, in that they are super, super golden and beautiful. And they are so different that people assume that she might be part demon. And this is what catches the eye of steel cast and moon cast demons.
I think the other aspect of her eyes too is it's not just that, but it's something about like the god that they worship, like the moon god or whatever. Like that, the color of the eyes have to do with that too.
Yes.
So there's like superstition around her too, like in a religious sense.
You are correct. Thank you for. I almost said thank you for being a friend, but that
Thank
too.
you for being a friend. Of course, we're all friends. Even everyone listening to this, we're all friends. We're friends
We
too.
are.
Yeah.
So Lay works in her parents' or her mother. We'll get to her mother, but works in an herb shop with her father and their employee who is a still cast, which is unusual for a still cast to work for a paper cast person.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of cool. I love Tien, the still
Yes.
cast character that is part of Lay's family, basically.
Yeah.
But Lay's mother was taken by soldiers in a raid when she was very young, and this has been like a big source of trauma for her, obviously, and something that is unfortunately going to repeat in her life because her eyes catch the attention of a still cast person who, the woman that comes into the shop and sees her. And I'm really think that's how the general found out that she existed at all.
Probably.
And then he comes into town and takes her, just like her mother was taken.
Yeah, what's interesting about that whole situation is they live in a place called Cienzo, and it's like on the far end of like the empire, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're essentially a province that is under the rule of like the monarchy emperor situation that's happening, but they're located regionally far enough away that they're mostly left alone, which is how you
Mm-hmm.
can have a situation where you have like the lowest caste employing a middle caste situation, and so they're not as like heavily under the boot of like the king as much as the other areas that we see, or like the palace where is where we're mostly at. So they have periods of like nothing happening where they're just happy and living their lives, and then the king has to be like, remember who's your boss, so he sends his goons in there to like
Mm-hmm.
wreak havoc, and he rules with an iron fist basically. So that's a display of power. It's like stealing her mom is just like, remember who's in charge is what it is.
Exactly.
And they do it through trauma and violence and ripping families apart. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is something that shapes Lay, and unfortunately multiple times, like you said.
And
It's
it's
disgusting.
very disgusting and also true to life in a historical sense, because this is how
Yes.
people
Yes.
have this is how humans have done things over the millennia. So
This is how the patriarchy does things. That's what this book
yes,
is
it
really
is.
about. And
The book is really about the
mhm.
patriarchy, so down with the
Mm,
patriarchy, just FYI.
yeah.
But so Lay learns that she's being taken to the palace to become a paper girl, and a paper girl is basically every year a group of paper cast girls are either put forward by their families mostly, or just like Lay was taken away from their family. But you get, the full sense that either they're forced to come in some way, shape, or form, even though some of them have been convinced by society since they were little that this was, an honor for them to go to the palace and become a paper girl and be the king's concubine, basically. So they're going to be the 8 human girls that he uses to show everyone in his kingdom that this is his power and this is an honor for them to serve him in this manner. And this is the level that paper caste is on. So look how happy these girls are to serve me, basically, is just his show of stupid fucking asshole patriarchal bullshit.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Great description. So it's something that happens. The choosing of paper girls is something that happens annually. So every year, there's like 8 new
Mm-hmm.
girls, and it's a form of control, and it's a way to keep the lowest class in line, because truly in any of these systems, like the lowest caste is always framed as like, well, they're unworthy. The reason they're called paper is because their skin is so thin compared to like ones that are more demony, that they're weak, like they can tear apart like paper. And but the thing about that is that usually that cast has the most numbers, and so like numbers can overwhelm even if you were a strong demon, like if
Mm-hmm.
there's enough people, they can rebel against you. And so the way to keep that cast in line is by showing them that they're were like valued by like, and then like to the upper caste being like they're worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way they did it in this world is by creating this paper girl system. And in the patriarchy, there's also another caste system that never gets talked about, but is clearly there, and it's very evident in this book. It's that not only do you have caste between how much or how little demon blood do you have, but the other caste is gendered, male versus female. So even within the caste, so like in demons, for example, like the highest caste, like they're at the top, a female demon is still below a male demon. So like there's a caste within a caste. And so what they're doing here is they're taking the lowest possible caste that there is, paper plus female, and he's displaying his power by being like, okay, I'm going to take them, do what I want because I can, but I'm going to frame it as like, look, they're papers in my palace. They're the only ones, really. So he's like, look, like you guys are valuable. He parades them around like, look, they're part of my court, like this and that. But meanwhile, you get all this language from like the demons who hate them for being there because they viewed papers as lower, women are lower than low, and you get all this nasty language directed towards them. People who's like with Lay, it's like, this wasn't my choice. I was kidnapped and forced into this by all of you. And now you look down. So it's like a way for like the demons to kind of like stay in their place and be like, yeah, I can look down on them. Cool. And then for the papers, it's framed as like, this is a big honor. Look, we're welcoming you in our court, even though none of you are allowed to have positions of power.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really fucked up. So some of the people that like buy into this bullshit, like one of the characters is Blue, and like her father is like a rising paper who's like kind of in the court. He like sells his daughter into this to be like, yep, look, and it's a way for him as a male paper to be like, yep, I'm buying along with the bullshit. I'm on the king. This is my pledge of loyalty. I'm giving you one of my
Mm-hmm.
own to do this ridiculous thing that you have in place. And then for others, the more impoverished people like Lay, who's off in a rural town that nobody talks about, she was just straight up kidnapped. And
Mm-hmm.
either way, like whether it's voluntary or not, you're still in this completely powerless position where you're just paraded around as a symbolic gesture to the low caste, but then also there for like the other castes to be like, ew, so that they feel superiority. And that's all designed so that like the structure of this world, the caste system, the monarchy or whatever, that all gets reinforced through this. So like everybody's happy because they're all getting something out of this, a feeling of superiority, which it's like Stockholm syndrome when you're like, yeah, well, I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
something out of this. This is okay. Let's not
Mm-hmm.
rock the boat with this whole system that's fucking over literally everybody, which is what
And
patriarchies are.
that's why the character of Aoki really
Oh my god, the most
fucking
heartbreaking character. Jesus
so
Christ.
heartbreaking.
Oki is so heartbreaking.
We'll get to her, but
Oh god, it's just straight up brainwashing her.
it
It's
really
so
is.
sad. And like also
Um,
the thing that pisses me off about this too, like their ages. These are children for the most part.
these are
Like
children.
Aoki is 16.
Mm-hmm.
These are children. Like it's fucked up. And
Absolutely.
I hate this stuff, triggers me and makes me really upset because this happens, it happens in real life. That's this kind of
Mm-hmm.
gendered violence and like emotional manipulation against women, it's happening now, and it's pisses me off.
I think that I don't think that's part of why because for me it's way easier to examine stuff like this through the lens of, like, say, a fantasy book
Fiction.
than through fiction than it is for me to examine it in real life cases, which take from
Yeah.
that what you will, but that's why I found this book somewhat important. But so yeah, Lay's being taken to the palace to be the king's one of the king's concubines, and everything that Theora just explained, which is not at all, a fun time for her. And in fact, there's one point on the way to the palace that she manages to escape for a hot minute
Literally.
and run away, but she is captured by the demon. The general that comes to get her, General Yan, is using her as a gift to get back in the king's favor. And his subordinate officer was supposed to watch her, and so he's extra pissed off when he catches her, but he can't do anything to her because this is the general's gift to the king. So
Oh, but he
he
tries to SA
he
her, and it
tries
just
to essay her, but that does not work out for him because the general catches him. Guess what? That's just so just to add another cherry on top of the fucked upness.
I mean, but like it goes to show that like she is not seen as a person. She's a
Nope.
thing. She is a thing.
Yep. And
Because
I
like
don't know.
like in the generals that stops it is not doing it to stop the SA. He's like,
Mhm.
this is the king's possession. Only
Yep.
he can do this. You're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
it's
don't know.
really fucked.
I don't know if it why. I guess I know why. I wonder if the author meant for it to be extra creepy since he's like a snake
Oh my god!
demon or a
Or a
lizard
lizard?
demon.
He's a
Lizard
crocodile?
demon.
Lizard. One of those reptiles.
One of those reptiles. Anyways, it
Yeah.
made it even creepier because the tongue thing, he
It's
has the
creepy.
long
Ew.
slithery tongue.
Ew.
Ah!
I know. I was like, I almost stopped reading it when I got to that
Yeah.
part. So I was like,
I'm
this is gross.
s-
Because like sometimes I had a hard time being like, oh, is this about bestiality? I don't know. I don't think that was the author's intent, but sometimes I was just like,
It's a natural reaction, I think, to it.
it
So they
amped
get
up the creep factor, if you know what I
You're
mean.
not joking.
Mm.
So they get to the palace, and turns out, they'd already selected all 8 of the paper girls for that year, but the general
I
can,
was so confused when I got to this part. I was like, are we
right?
done? Like, what's happening? Why 8 too? They never explain like that's is
They
that a
never
lucky
explain why
number?
8.
I don't know.
It's a little plot gap,
Yeah.
that never
Because
gets explained.
they do, side note, they do talk about certain numbers that like superstitiously, like I think
Yeah,
4 was
significant.
death and like things like that.
Mhm.
But anyway, I just realized that.
I did enjoy the slight backdrop of the superstition and religious aspects.
Oh, absolutely. My favorite part of this whole book and this book was the cultural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely
Mine
enjoyed. I
too.
wish they did more of the. I wish there was more of the their religion
Mm-hmm.
element into it. It was there, but I wish there was more of it because I just found
I
that
agree.
really fascinating.
I think it would have made the other parts a little more rounded, if that makes
Correct.
sense.
Yeah, fleshed out.
If
Yeah,
we
I
had
agree.
more of that. So, um, anyway, the general convinces the so the in the paper girl house there are 2 women who are kind of over the paper girls. So there's a paper cast woman, Mistress Iria is the way
Oh, hold on.
Iria.
Shit, I can't remember her name. I know there's Mistress.
No, it's Mistress Iria. It's Eria, but I'm just trying to
No, I
pronounce
know.
it.
I
There's
didn't read the book with my eyes. I did audiobook.
Right.
So I'm trying to remember how they say that name.
Oh, I got you. I
Iara,
got you.
Iara. That's how they
Tiara.
say it. Iara. Sorry,
So
it just took
Mistress
me a second.
Tiara, thank you. This is
Yeah.
actually going to work out because some of the names are
Advantage
hard
of
to pronounce.
I know advantage of audiobook, by the way.
And then
Yeah,
Mistress
Tiara.
Tamora. So Mistress Uria is Papercast. Mistress Amora is Mooncast. So she's a bird
Yes,
demon, which
yes. Which
also
apparently
kind of
is super
creepy.
rare. Yeah,
Yeah. Also kind of creepy.
super. It's all creepy.
Sure enough. So this general convinces them to take Lay as a ninth paper girl.
And again, it
Well,
really has to do with the eyes because the king is superstitious AF. And they're like, oh, she
exactly.
has the eyes of the goddess. Yeah, maybe we should make an exception.
So that's how she gets in. Um, but it kind of works out because all these paper girls have to go through this absolutely demeaning and humiliating and awful screening process.
Which again is designed to be like, hey, just because you're in the palace doesn't mean you have any power. This is all some
Mm-hmm.
power tripping bullshit. Just remember your place. You're the lowest of the low. That's all this shit is.
Yep. Basically examining them for, have they ever slept with anyone before? It
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Do they have an enchantment on them to look prettier or appear a different way? Whatever. Because there is magic,
In this
sort
world, yeah.
of. There's magic, but it's not called magic. We'll put it that way.
Yes.
It's a whole thing. That's like a chi kind of magic.
Yeah.
It's like take from it and give, but you have to give something back.
It's like,
So,
okay, having read the trilogy, basically what the magic is it's like the energy from the earth/universe. And
mhm,
there's like the yin yang, because this is an Asian kind of thing. There's a yin yang to it with the chi, and it has to do with like you take and then give back. But
yep,
the world is essentially, you will come to see like how the king, because the king essentially harnesses all the shamans, the people who are able to harness the magic. And basically there's an imbalance right now because the king is using too much, and so like the earth is being depleted of its like the chi left to like facilitate magic. And so yeah, that's what's happening.
once again, fuck the
Patriarchy.
monarchy.
Yeah. No, this is patriarchy bullshit. It's that belief that like we're above everything else, so we can
Mhm.
take everything that we want, but it's like, hi, that's not how it works. You're just gonna destroy everything, which is kind of what this is about.
Um, all right. That's a fun
Wait,
time.
hold on. I want to talk about one more thing because you
Go for it.
mentioned Mistress Iara and Madame Hamura. So another, again, this is all like power bullshit. Another like degrading bullshit thing is that not only do the paper girls have to do this, but one of the people in charge of them is a paper. So it's almost like, again, like either like that person has to be so brainwashed that they're like, yeah, this is a good thing that we're being forced to do this quote unquote honor to serve the king or whatever in this by being humiliated and degraded all the fucking time at like the whim of these demons. But like to have that being reinforced by somebody of your own caste is super fucked up. And that's what happens in real life. Like you have people in like, lower castes or who are seen as minority groups, but they're like, you see this in America with like people in minority groups like reinforcing whiteness because they get a little bit of status out of doing that. And that's really
Mhm.
what Madame Yara really represents. So
Yep.
it hurts worse than having like the demon like Madame Hamura like demonize you as the bird demon, because that's built into the caste system. But to have somebody of your own caste do that is way worse. And so poor Lay like goes through it with Mistress Iara because she's like, oh, maybe she'll understand, but like
Mhm.
no, she's bought into this system. She gets status from this. Like, it's like a survival thing too. Like you kind of can't, you can get mad at her for it, but like it's survival. Like otherwise her life is crap. She gets a little bit better
Mhm.
of a life by playing along with this and reinforcing this that's hurting her own caste. And this happens in real life. It sucks.
She doesn't have a lot of choice. Like none of
There is
these.
correct.
There's
None
no
of them have.
choice.
There is no choice in any of this. And then it's just framed as this is a big honor for you, this thing you were forced into. But remember
Mhm.
you're trash. Like
And that's what makes it even more heartbreaking with her and Lay,
Yeah.
because she's the only person that's really nice to the girls.
Yep. Because she's
But
been there. So she
yeah,
has some degree of compassion.
she has that degree of compassion, but she also knows that they're not going to have, in her mind, she's like, they're not going to have a choice. So I need to do what I can best do to prepare them for the life that they're going to have
Under the
going
patriarchy and this
on
caste
under
system.
this
Yeah.
system. And
Yep.
that's why you find out that even in her kindness, it's cruel, because, Lay wants to write home to her family,
Yeah.
and Mistress I keep saying it wrong.
Iara.
Iara, thank you. Mistress Iara is like, oh yeah, sure, here's some paper and pen and whatever. I'll send the letters for you. And, she just keeps them. She doesn't send them.
Yeah, I was like, that bitch is not going to send that letter.
Yeah, I was like,
There's
girl,
no
she's
way
not
she
going to send
can.
those.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
I think that even if she wanted to, she doesn't have that much
She
power
wouldn't.
to do
No,
that.
she
She
doesn't.
doesn't have that power because she is still a paper and a
Mm-hmm.
woman in this whole system. So, like,
So
she can't even if she wanted to be
I think
honest.
she felt like it was a kindness to give
Give her
Lay the
hope.
opportunity and the hope to be
Yeah.
able to talk to. And Lay was always really careful not to say anything bad about what was happening with her, because she was afraid for her family.
Right. And that's the
So,
thing that's constantly reinforced in this kind of story and in this like survival structure, that it's always like it's the emotional attachments and the familial bonds, even if blood or not,
mhm.
that's constantly the thing that's being held over everybody. It's like
Yep,
survival for the individual and then survival for like the family unit. That's constantly the motivating factor of like,
yep,
you know, especially with Lay, it's very much her family is the thing that's always held over her head. And so,
yep,
and just, she's smart enough, like you said in that example, to like understand that like she is trapped in this system and can't like has to still play along in some aspects. So like even when she writes the letters, they're like bland, like you said, because she's trapped in the system. Like she has to play along to keep everybody alive, or, or
mhm.
unharmed, I guess. It sucks. It just robs everybody of choice, their identity, and just and the sad part is like even the people at the top aren't happy. Nobody is happy in these systems. Like everybody's getting screwed in one way, shape, or form. It's just royally
Yep.
fucked.
So that after Lay arrives, the next day she gets to meet the other girls. And that's when we meet Aoki, who will become Lay's best friend. She's very sweet. Like Theora said, she's 16 and very
Naive and innocent.
naive and innocent. This will not work in her favor.
Not at all. Like she is probably throughout the entire book, series, the most traumatized person because
Yes.
she's like gaslit and like she goes into the dream house like to the fullest
Mm-hmm.
extent. Like
Yep.
literally actually falls in love with the king, her like
Mm-hmm.
capturer rapist. Yeah, it's really really sad. There's a really heartbreaking moment, I think towards the end of the book with Lay, when she realizes what has already happened. She's like, wow, my best friend fell in love with a monster and I didn't even like recognize the signs. Like it
Mm-hmm.
happened right so gradually and I didn't, yeah, yeah. And then they have like a tumultuous relationship from then on out because then they end up on opposite sides of like the king stuff. But it's really sad the way she's this innocent, wide-eyed kid who's like, I just want to play my part, keep my family safe. Like, this is an honor. She kind of buys into it because I think her family, like,
Mm-hmm.
they like she knew she was going into this and they like
Mm-hmm.
tried to get her to have this honor. So like she must have grew up in a household that like believed in this like way to serve the king, way to serve the empire kind of thing. So it's very sad. She was brainwashed, I think, from home, and then it got worse when she actually was playing her role, and she just like fell into it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
She became the believer. It's so sad. So,
Absolutely.
so sad. I feel so bad for Aoki.
Um, you've already mentioned Blue, but
Ugh,
Blue
yeah.
Blue's family is somewhat higher up in the paper world, as far as, so Blue's family is pretty far up, and then there's Mariko, who's, I don't remember much about her family, but
Oh yeah, me neither. I barely
then
remember these
there's
other ones.
Jin and Jean,
The
who are
twins.
twins. And then who am I missing? I mean, besides Rin,
Ren.
obviously. I was like, is that everybody before I say
I don't
Rin?
know.
Because
The other ones don't matter.
they
Just get
don't
to
matter.
the. Okay, wait. Before we get to Ren, because hot, we have to talk
Hot
about.
as fuck.
We have to talk about Lil. I think because I think
Yes, let's talk about Lil.
I think that Lil is kind of like the steel version of Aoki. So
Yes.
Lil is a steel. She's like a doe, like a deer, which again is like Bambi innocence. So it's like right there in the animal. And she becomes so in the paper. So they end up in the palace. Basically, the palace is segregated. So it's like again, it's not just like we're at the top. It's like there's even like segregation within the fucking palace.
There's a woman's court.
The women have one, which again is how like kind of the imperial Asian empires were structured in the royal houses. The women had like one little section, and the men can do whatever. And then there's a whorehouse because, of course, the patriarchy is disgusting. So anyway, there's women's court, and then the papers get further segregated into like paper women area. So it's like paper house is what it's called. And that's where they all live. And it's not just like the concubines because again, remember, they're not just like, whatever women, they're a symbol of just like power. So they have to be like purified, which is disgusting. Every time they do anything at the beginning of the day, they have to get purified and they get like bathing rituals and like they have to get, hair and makeup and all that stuff because they're just figureheads and they have to look pretty and like what all that bullshit because it's male dominated gendered power is what's happening. So in order to do that, they have essentially like chambermaids kind of, I forget what they're called, but like chambermaids essentially, like one chambermaid's assigned to each paper girl, and Lil becomes Lay's. And so she's the one responsible to like get her up in the morning, get her to her, lessons on time, get her to like parties or whatever. So Lay and Lil become like attached at the hip because that's like kind of the structure in the paper house system kind of thing. And Lil is like very sweet and like she's just like Aoki, but so she's like, you're serving the king, and like she's like brainwashed into this whole thing. But she isn't in the same position as Aoki where she's forced to actually do the stuff. She's more so just in the paper house, and like her story is very sad too because she has family that's like in the court or like around or something, and she's like, yeah, I can like see them whenever. And so that's the advantage of being here. And Lay's like, well, when's the last time you saw them? She's like, well, it's been a few months. So like she slowly, like the curtains come back for Lil over time where she realizes that I'm trapped in this system too, and like being a steel doesn't really protect me. So she goes along the journey with Lay and is kind of like, her innocence is shattered and she sees like what reality is with Lay as Lay goes along, whereas Aoki ends up further behind the curtain and hidden kind of thing. So they're interesting foils, those two.
Exactly. And I love Lil. She was one of the really bright spots
yeah, she's cute.
She's adorable. I just wanted to hug her.
Yeah.
But so Rin Hano. Let's talk about Rin.
Our raven-haired beauty.
Oh my god, I haven't even seen a depiction of her except for on the book cover, but like in the book she's described so well that in my mind I see her and she's
hydrate
for listen.
All the G's
So Rin is the daughter.
You'll be okay talking about this. Come on.
I'm gonna get there. Rin is the daughter of the daughter of the Hano clan, which is the highest paper caste clan. Period.
Yeah.
In the Empire, they are the highest ones, and they serve as like the king's advisors and helpers, et cetera, et cetera. So Kitai
Yeah, Katai.
Hanno?
Mm-hmm.
Kitai Hanno
Yeah.
is her father, and he was the one that put her forward, but he had a very specific reason for doing so, because he and his family has had a plan for a very long time to overthrow the king. And
Yeah.
Rin is the way that he's going to do that. He places her in this position so that she can kill the king.
Mm-hmm.
And what no one knows about Rin is that she is the last of a very old and very amazing battle, sort of like a battle mage tribe that existed and was wiped out by the king's predecessor. So,
Yeah, they were called the Sia, and basically what they
mhm,
were, because in this world right now, the Demon King has basically all of the shaman. And shaman are
mhm,
a group of people who are able to harness magic. He has all of them. The reason we got there is because what Bree's describing is many generations ago, there was a clan of papers called the Shia who could harness magic in a warrior form, like in a fighting form. And they were
mhm,
so crazy powerful that they were the biggest threat to the demons. So the demons had to wipe them all out because and then basically make it so that magic is only ours now.
mhm,
And so Ren is like the at this point the last survivor of that clan. And Kitai Hano, there's more about him in the other books after this, but he essentially is a giant opportunist and is like, huh, interesting. So he devises this thing where he presents Ren as his daughter because she was young enough at the time when he found her. He's like, no, she's my actual daughter. She's my actual daughter. And she becomes this double agent
mhm.
basically. And this is why I have my Killing Eve mug today, because that's the whole premise of what made Killing Eve interesting, where it's a female assassin, which is essentially what Ren is. What makes that so effective and what made female spies in real life so effective is that in these patriarchies, women are not thought of as people. So they're not thought of as possibly being threatening. So Ren can get into the palace where paper warriors could never get, and she can get alone in a room with the king, which nobody else can do because she's seen as dirt, powerless, a thing. Meanwhile, it's like you have one of the most powerful people on this planet with the king. So it's a brilliant strategy. However, Ren has to get traumatized and essayed to do that, which is the
Exactly.
fucked up part. And poor Ren is another one who has Stockholm syndrome that we
Mhm.
unpack over the entire trilogy because of
Yep.
her dad. Katai just uses her.
Yep.
She's a means to, because again, he doesn't see her as a person. She is a means to an end for him too.
Yep.
So it's that's the how the patriarchy just functions. Whether it's good guys, bad guys, it's all the same mentality, and it's really harmful to everybody.
Yeah, whether he's a paper or a steel or a moon, he's still a man who used this little girl as a pawn in his game
Yes,
to,
for
and
power.
he's justifying it by saying, "Well, I'm doing good in the world."
Yeah, yeah. But you'll see,
Except,
in the other books, you see what he's really willing to do for means to an end,
mhm,
and the writer really begs the question of well, if you think you're doing the good thing and the king is doing a bad thing, but you guys are using the same methods, morality wise, is there really a difference here?
and that's why. Okay, so I only got through half of the second book before something happened, and I had to stop reading. And Theora has got through all the books, so she knows a little more about the plot going forward. But even in as far as I got in book 2, you can tell that he's not gonna that this is going to be some messed up, and you're gonna have to deprogram Rin from her father's influence.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because that's real life, and it makes you examine, because always in history, I feel like at least in America, we are skewed because we live in America, where your history of where you live is always framed as we were the good guys.
Hmm.
But if you look at how you were the good guys in whatever, it's we were doing awful shit. So were we the good guys? Were like, what is the good guy in a war?
Is
So
there a good
it's,
guy?
is there a good guy, or is this just all fucked up and there's just a winner and a loser? And the
Yep.
winner takes power and like steps the boot on the loser, which is basically how this whole world was functioned. So yeah, the other two books go more into like the actual like political conflicts, deprogramming Ren, Lay's arc continues. So it's very interesting. Whereas like this book is just like the palace, basically, is the main location and the stuff in the palace.
You're making me really want to read them, and I need to finish our other book club book.
I'm so sorry. Which we'll tell you about at the end. Oh shit, I gotta go get it.
Anyway, Ren's hot. Just
Super
FYI.
hot. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I have to point out too, when Lay, because the POV of the book is just, you're just Lay's.
Lay.
I think it's only Lay in this book. In the other books, you jump around to other
Mhm.
characters, which I find interesting, but this one's all Lay. So when Lay first sees Ren, she describes her as like, I think cat eyes. Like there's some kind of
Mhm.
cat comparison, which I
Yes.
was like, this is gonna be an interesting character, not just because of gay stuff, but because in the world, they describe cat demons and like cat steals, like
Mhm.
oh crap, what's her aunt's name? Tien?
Yeah, Tien.
Tien the Steel. She's a cat,
Mm.
and like the cats are basically, they're the one demon clan who's rebellious, like because it's a cat.
Mhm.
Cats, Bree can tell you. Do cats ever do what
Yes.
you want them to do?
Well, not unless they wanted to do it in the first place.
Exactly. So basically, independence is what that means. And so the
Yes.
fact that like when they first meet, or she first sees Ren, she's like, oh, there's something cat-like about her. So
Mhm.
you get the sense that like Ren is obviously different, and that she's going to be not really playing along with this by that
Mhm.
comparison. So I found that really interesting, like in their
It
first
was. I loved it.
viewing of each other, rather.
Yeah. Also, it's used for that, and the description's also used because she is very graceful and assassin-like in her movements. Because
I
guess what?
wonder.
She's an assassin. But
Assassin.
she's an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they meet, and
They sure do.
I really like how it developed, because Ren tries to keep herself apart from the other girls because she knows that she's not there to make friends. She has a different mission than everyone else, but the gay doesn't just let you go. So
No, it's a really great slow burny
it is.
thing that happens with them. I love it.
I love it too. And you also get that Ren has such a protective sense when it comes to Lay in general. But so the first person there that Lay becomes close to is Aoki, because naturally that relationship is going to develop, since Aoki is the nicest of all the girls, and she's somewhat understanding and sweet, etc. Otherwise, the others, especially Blue, they call her Nine. They don't even call her by her name.
Yeah.
Like Blue and her little hench lady friend,
Yeah. Her posse.
her little posse, calls her Nine. Call her Nine, and it's just one more way for them to shit on somebody who's even below them in their mind. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing too, it's that, and then it's also jealousy, because
mhm.
Blue was one of the people who, like, her father volunteered her for this as a form of honor, so that their family can keep power in the court. So like not Ren, I apologize. Blue feels like she has a mission of her own, like to her family kind of deal. So that gives her superiority, like you said. But also it's jealousy, because Lay shouldn't be there, but like
Mhm.
the king had to approve this and was like, yeah, she's an exception. I'm cool with this exception. So
Mhm.
Blue's like, why do you get I think it's definitely a jealousy thing. And it just, Blue never lets that go. Like she's very like, fuck you, Lay, the whole time.
It absolutely is. And you'll find out later that Blue does betray Lay and Ren. So
Blue has a very interesting arc throughout all three books, but yeah, this book is very much like she's gaslit, like, and brainwashed like everybody else. and it's very jealous. And I think it's because she's afraid that like the reality of what being a paper girl really is and how much power she doesn't have and how much her father really doesn't care about her is the thing that that character has to like process. And
Mhm.
she does not process it well because that's a fucking lot to process.
It really
So she
is.
goes into like straight up denial, and that's basically book one with Blue.
Hmm. I'm looking forward to seeing what more happens with her, but
Oh no, you'll. It gets. Let me know when you get to book three.
okay,
That's
I
all I'm saying.
will.
That's all I'm saying.
So we're at the point where the girls are going to start their lessons, and it's interesting because they have all these different kinds of lessons. They have like their chi lesson. They have basically they're being taught in all the ways to please the king and
It's
to be a lady in
femininity
court.
lessons. Is
Yeah, it's
the
Yeah,
yeah, that's what it is. Femininity
so
lessons.
which
Gross.
is very gross, but also. And here's one thing that really gets me. All right,
What is
I
it?
don't know why this little detail really bothered me, but it did.
Okay.
So when the king sends for whatever paper girl that he wants that night.
I know where you're going with this. I have a whole paragraph about this. Go. Yeah.
Okay, so the way he does it is he sends their name on a chip that mistress, is it
Hemura. Iara.
Hamura reveals to all the girls. So it's like she puts the chip out and it's got one of their names on it. And it's just like, what are they? It's like
It's just constant degradation. And the thing that I hate that happens after that. So after that humiliation, because like everybody sees it, and then everybody except the chosen leaves, and then Madame Hamura and the chambermaid, they're like, okay, now we have to purify you. It's
for the
gross. They
king
do this, which is again, it's like it's just more degradation because it's just saying like you're beneath the king, so you have to be purified so he can
before
even
you can
see
be in
you.
his presence.
It's
Mhm.
makes me so angry.
And they're sent to have um,
Sex lessons
sex lessons. They're
at the
sent
whorehouse.
they're sent to the whorehouse to have sex lessons, and we see through Lay we meet another character, Zell, who man,
Justice for Zell.
justice for Zell. I loved this character.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great addition
Love
because we
her.
got to see what happens to paper girls after they stop being
They're
paper
1 year.
girls.
Yeah, exactly.
So Zell is in the what is the other
The
name
Night
for it?
House, I think is
The
what they
Night
call it.
House.
Which
The
is a
Night
whorehouse.
House. And she is there for the pleasure of any of the demon folk in court that want to come and take advantage of that.
Demon men. It's
Yes,
men specifically.
demon men's in the
Demon
courts.
men's.
So Zell is a sympathetic character because for a lot of reasons, but sympathetic to Lay because she gets where Lay's coming from. And remember the backstory of Lay being her mother was kidnapped. So the only thing that's really kept her okay in this entire time was the hope that she could find out what happened to her mother in the palace. So she uses this opportunity of being in the night house to find out if her mother's name is on the rolls of the night house, if her mother was brought there to the night house to serve the king and court in that way. And while she's trying to she gets away from Zell under a pretense and it tries to find the scrolls in the office of like the mistress of the night house.
Mistress. Oh shit! I had her name a second ago. She's important in the other books. I'll think of her name.
Okay, you anyway, Zell
It
catches
doesn't
her
matter.
and covers for her. So, she gets it because she's been there. And in the end, we're going to see that she really is an absolute hero. So,
She absolutely is.
Zell, hydrate for Zell.
Hydrate for Zell.
So put a pin in that.
Yes.
We meet Zell. It takes a while for Lay to be called by the king.
Thank God.
Thank goodness. However, when she is called by the king,
I almost
guess
stopped
what?
reading the book.
Theora almost stopped reading. So she gets called by the king, and the first time, I'll make a long story short. She manages to get the fuck out of there before he
Yeah.
can do much to her,
Yes.
which is a huge no insult to him, and that is not going to bode well for her.
No.
Her punishment is being contained in this space, solitary with no food for a week. Which,
Oh, it's not just that. So, okay, when she's escaped, so this is some bullshit too, and it pissed me off. And it reinforces this whole people upholding the patriarchy and internalized misogyny. So he has a prized guard slash general named Nadia, I think, who is a white fox demon. That is like his most trusted, the king's most trusted anybody in the whole world. And that's the person who guards the door to the fuck chamber, basically. And when Lay gets the fuck out of there, like she just runs. She gets through the door. Actually, no, before we get to that part, when she's being led in there, this bitch has the audacity to like call her paper whore, and she keeps calling her that. Because remember, Nadi is a woman, so even in the demon world, she's a lower caste in the demons. And so to exert her power, she's degrading the paper girls, who again, and she's like, wow, you're a whore, this and that. It's like, well, you guys are the ones that forced her into this. Like, I hate this stuff so much because it's like, it's your fault. You set up this system, and then you're mad at the people at the bottom of the system that you created. So there's that. And when Leia is escaping, that's the person who stops her. She like whacks her in the back of the head with her sword, I think. And so, as a form of punishment, this is something that the king keeps doing. Even after these encounters, the essaying that he does to all his paper girls, he basically that night when they go back to the paper house, there he leaves them in pain and basically like has his shamans come in and clean up the wounds so you can't see anything on the outside, but on the inside he's like, don't take the pain away, let them keep the pain, which is again a way of just exerting his power and being like, I can do this to you, submit to me, like I'm the one in charge kind of bullshit. But it's just, this is like the top of the patriarchy, is who power trips is just so psychologically fucked up. But that's what he keeps doing. And so that's what he does to Lay. He not only like deprives her of food and water, but he like leaves her with the pain. So basically everybody in the system gets like internally traumatized. That's what that's kind of symbolizing. Exterior looks is meant, you have to look fine on the outside, but on the inside, he's just trying to break everybody to like bend to his will kind of thing. And like what sets Lay apart is that she's not somebody who's internally easily broken.
And to be clear, he's not just essaying these women, he's beating the shit out of these women.
Correct, yeah. He's
just
physically abusing them.
Let you know how much pain that they're in when they come back.
Yeah, like later with Ren, she has like bruises on her neck and stuff like that. Because basically it's a man-child.
A superstitious man-child that does not know any other way of keeping control of the things that he wants. What?
So physical violence is all he has. And emotional tantrums that end in physical violence. It's disgusting. That's the patriarchy. That's why it's so dangerous.
But while she is in this position, the only way that she gets anything is Ren.
Yeah.
So
Ren sneaks in and gives her food.
Ren sneaks in and gives her food. And I think that's really where they start.
That is.
So, yay, gayness. At least there's that.
Ren brings her sweet, like, desserts, and that becomes, like, a thing they do.
Yeah.
Forever.
And then So she goes back into the paper girl house eventually and resumes her lessons and is just basically waiting for when the king's going to call her again. And this time it's going to be, awful.
Yeah. And again, he like his form of psychological torture is like putting off calling her because
Mm-hmm.
then every week she's just freaking out. Is it me? Is it me? Is it me? It's just more psychological torture.
Exactly. But they go through all of these parties and things. Like there's an incident where a woman, isn't it a woman, is that tries to,
Yes, it is a paper woman.
so paper woman tries to, basically she gets taken down by the moon cast when she's trying to, is she trying to assassinate? I feel
I
like,
can't remember, but basically he kills papers in front of the paper girls is basically what happens.
yeah.
Like defenseless papers. And it's just reinforcing the fact that like these paper girls at that time, they're getting comfortable being in the palace because they're ripped from their homes, they're
Mhm.
now in the palace. And that's like the demon way of life. And so it's reinforcing like, hey, you're still a paper. He's doing all this horrible shit, even though you're like behind his closed wall, seeing what he wants you to see in this like perfect palace situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fucked.
we've got the one incident with the woman who was killed, and then we have the incident with the villagers that were
Correct.
collected
Yep.
at another party and just fucking given out as slaves to other mooncast demons.
He's just like, pick your whore. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fucked up.
it's so
But
fucked up.
the woman that you're talking about,
Bless you.
thank you. The woman that you're talking about, I think that's the one that calls Lay. I forget the word, but
Yes,
basically
yes, it
calls her
is.
traitor.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the word, but yeah, and that's something that sticks with Lay forever because
It does.
it's true. Because I mean, it's just like Mistress Iara, all that stuff. It's like you're now a part of, like you're a part of the system that's like oppressing us,
Mm-hmm.
and she calls Lay that, which, and I guess it's like, oh, you're sleeping with the enemy, you're a traitor. Which again, like, yeah, like technically, but also like she had no choice in this. They put her here. Like it's again, you're blaming the individual for like the system that's the problem. Like the
Mm-hmm.
problem is the king and the demons creating the system, not the people that are forced into these roles. But it's something that like it really sticks with Lay, and she, kind of sees it through that lens as she lives in the palace where she's like, wow, I'm here. Maybe I'm part of the problem because I'm living this role. I'm a cog in the wheel kind of thing. So it's just so fucked up, like all of it. It's just the whole thing is psychological torture. Like this whole
Mm-hmm.
thing, it's fucked
It
up.
really is.
Yeah, but that encounter really sticks with Lay like forever.
It does because
Yeah,
it's mentioned several times.
so many times.
So we have those incidents with paper people we see. We have one former paper girl that has married into the court after she was a paper girl. And we see a very, very sad scene with her. Basically, she has been kept beautiful on the outside with shaman's magic, and her face basically melts away to reveal what's underneath, like, and it's the ugliness of everything that she has been made into and put through. So it's a really kind of striking way to show Lay a future she could have had and the
Yeah,
future that most paper girls do have.
yeah, where you're just in the inside completely broken by this system, but presented as being fine and beautiful, which is what the
Mhm.
demons want to see. They're like, see, our system's working, but like, yeah, I agree.
So
Great
and
description.
her huge the huge issue in her mind is that the king won't give them any more magic to make her beautiful again. And so another way for him to exert
Hold
his
power.
power, because her husband displeased the king, she doesn't get any more magic to look beautiful.
Right, because he's a man child.
Mhm. Anyway, just
Patriarchy
another
hurts everyone. That's
Mhm.
just the theme of this. That's just reality. It hurts everybody. Because everybody, even the king, is not happy in this system. And he's the top of
Mhm.
the top. Like, it hurts everyone.
And that was I wanted to bring that up because it's just another thing that the author uses to show you behind the curtain.
Behind the curtains, totally. Behind the
So,
mask, all that stuff. Yeah. Good point.
Let's talk a little more about the gay, because I need
Yes.
a little bit of happy. They're
Yes, yes.
adorable together.
They are adorable together. Again, they're like prisoners of war,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, in a sense that like their relationship is built on a shared trauma, which is living in the court as the lowest of the low
Mm-hmm.
caste that has no choice in what they're doing, but they still find a way to be rebellious. And it's one of those things where it's like the act of us just being us when we're together and like loving each other is a form of rebellion in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really cool depiction of that. And then through Lei, you actually get to see Ren, because Ren is isolating herself because
Mm-hmm.
she has a mission, like you said. So you actually get to see who Ren is through Lei, which is really nice. And so she's a very focused person. She's secretive for a reason. She's a fucking assassin. The only problem I have with their relationship, and it's mostly Lei. Lei annoys me sometimes, and she
Me
annoyed
too.
me in this scene later where they're like escaping. Are they escaping the palace? I can't remember what they're doing, but like the first time Ren goes into Sia mode and like kills somebody, and then Lei's reaction to that is so weird, where she's like, "Wow," she's like, "Wow, I can't believe she did that. I can't believe she did that." I'm like,
What
you've
the
watched
fuck do you expect?
What the fuck was that reaction? Your whole life has been like you've been exposed to violence and demons killing papers your whole life, and then Ren does it, and then you're suddenly like looking at her differently, and I'm like, what is this reaction? It was
Why
so
are you
weird.
judging her right now? She's literally protecting you.
She saved your life. What was that reaction? It was so weird. I can't figure that one out.
The only thing that I could figure is that I'm like, is the author trying to show even how backwards all of this society stuff is making Lei think in some ways? I don't
maybe
know.
like how she killed a demon. Oh my god! Like, yeah, I don't know, but it makes her like think of Ren in a negative way, and I found that really weird.
It makes her scared of Ren,
right?
And I'm like,
why?
I guess because she like actually witnessing Ren go into that mode, where she's harnessing the energy of the earth basically, and her eyes go white. I guess it is in Lei's mind somehow associates her with demons and killing and the violence. That's the only thing I can think of, is that it's putting Ren in that category of doing violence and brutalness and whatever, but it still doesn't make sense to me. Like, if I had been in that position, I can't really say because I've never been a king's concubine.
This is not my lived experience. I don't
but
demons,
I would be like, fuck yeah, kill that motherfucker. Let's get out.
I'd be like, make out with her. Like, what?
Yeah,
I don't understand this.
That was hot. Let's go.
Yeah. Laser. Okay, that's the only part. I was just like, this reaction is weird, and it doesn't just like it lingers.
It's not just in the moment. It lasts for a hot minute.
Yeah, it was weird. Other than that, everything about them made sense. That part was just weird.
Yeah, I'd really like to ask her what she was doing with that.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Anyway, but yeah, Ren, super cool, and then Ren, you get to see like how deep the influence of Katai Hano really is, because Ren has Kenzo, which is one of the guards, I think. Generals.
One of the king's like generals. He's not a general. He's a major or something.
Yeah, I don't remember. He's in the military. I just don't remember his
He's high up in the military. He's close to the king.
Correct, close to the king. And so Katai has him in there, and he's a wolf demon.
He's a wolf demon.
And so he meets Ren like in the ass crack of hours of the night to like keep her training while she's there, and like Lei is like, why does she keep disappearing? So she meets Kenzo, who's a really cool character too. I really enjoy him.
He's like the only demon in this part in this book that I actually had an attachment to that's full on demon.
Spoiler alert, he's queer AF. So that's cool.
Yes!
As you keep going in the next couple of books, there's way more queer stuff than just Lay and Ren. So
This is exciting.
if you like
Well,
this book
I do know
and want
about
more
some
queer
of
stuff,
it.
keep reading.
Yeah.
But like, there's
some
comments about Kenzo at the end, and I was like, damn, he's just getting it with everybody. He's queer AF. So there's Kenzo. He's really cool. And he's integral to kind of like getting Ren where she needs to go, getting around the palace and stuff like that. And so, but their relationship is really nice because it's built on something solid. It's built on the shared trauma too that like it's like war buddies where like you only you guys went through that experience, so you're like connected in a way that you're not connected to other people. And Lay really helps open up Ren in a way, because for Ren, like Lay is kind of like she was taught to be in control constantly because she had to be a effective assassin. But with Lay, it's like, I'm not in control. So it's like a new situation for her that develops very nicely.
I love it's so kind of like human and typical in a way that one of Lay's greatest fears is that Ren is sneaking out to have an affair with somebody else.
Oh my god, she thinks she's fucking Kenzo. It's
Yeah.
like, girl.
Oh my girl. No.
She's like, I hear, like, she's like, before she catches them in the woods, she's like, I hear grunting. I know what this is. And then it's like, they have swords. And I was like, girl.
Like, ma'am. Ren's gay as fuck.
I know.
Ren's gay for you, so stop.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. I always like when there's some jealousy sprinkled in there. So like, their relationship kind of has it all. It's fun.
It was done in a cute way, so I enjoyed it. Sometimes jealousy can just be dumb, but this was done well. So
it was done well.
approve.
And they have cute little like night rendezvous after trauma happens, and just
Let's not forget that Ren does teach Lay some fighting techniques that will come in handy later.
Correct. That are very necessary. Given their circumstances.
And then when Ren has to leave at one point, Kenzo steps in.
Yeah.
So
and they become buddies.
Yeah, they become buds. But so while all that's happening, the gay is developing and has developed. Not all is well in the palace. The king's getting more and more crazy and superstitious, and has started to do all of he's just getting paranoid. That's the word. He's becoming so paranoid. And yes, there are people that are trying to assassinate you. So paranoid for a good reason. There's an assassination attempt, and that's when Ren gets her Shia on and scares the crap out of Lay, apparently. But after that, everything gets weird for a while in the palace. So there's a lot of security going on. A lot of things are not normal anymore. But the huge thing is this one night that they're working up to, and it's the night that Ren is supposed to kill the king. And it's this big ball that they're having, basically.
Because, spoiler, it was supposed to be Ren, but Ren's out of the picture now, so now it has to become Lay, who is not a trained assassin.
Exactly.
Which is wild.
Ren is gone away from the palace because her mother died. So the king basically had her mother killed. And now we get Kenzo convincing Lay that she has to be the one to kill the king. Little Lay that has no Shia powers whatsoever.
But she's a feisty
She's very
woman.
feisty. She has about 1 drop of actual combat training.
Yes, to be exact. And the reason he's pushing her is basically because, like, there's dissenters in the court, and he's like, everything's ready. The only thing that's not here is Ren, so you have to be Ren.
Yeah, so if it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Their whole plan was for Ren to kill the king and for him to step in to the power gap and to get things shored up in the right direction and get the court moving in the correct direction.
And it's centered around something called the moon ball that only happens like once a year. And so it's like approaching. And he's like, well, You're a woman. You can do it.
You're a paper girl. You can get close to the king. Here's a knife.
Best of luck. Ren taught you how to stab stuff, right?
Yeah.
You were paying attention.
So that's when Kenzo kind of takes over and trains her for one night, basically.
Literally, her second drop of combat training.
Yeah. And then we have the ball. Guess what happens at the ball? Just guess what the king does. Fuck-a-ree. Guess who's brought to the palace? Leia's family.
Yeah. Leia's family, yeah.
Leia's family is brought to the palace.
Because again, he's paranoid and he knows he's losing control, and she's the one that wouldn't break. Although by this time he actually SA'd her, and it's horrible.
Yes, we can't skip over.
But it did happen.
You have to say that it happens, but she's traumatized because he actually did get to SA her. And she thought that she was going to beat him and make him pass out by giving him these herbs
because she's an herb person, but that did not work out.
That did not work because they were ripped away from her.
He was paranoid.
Basically,
he was drunk. It doesn't matter.
He was drunk.
Fuck
it doesn't matter.
We're
at the ball. He's brought her family there to be like, haha, bitch, I have your family and I can do whatever I want. And
also,
she's
don't
like,
try anything. Is really what it is. Because he's afraid of her.
He is afraid of her. He's been afraid of her ever since she defied him. And that was
Yep.
This little girl, this little 17-year-old girl.
Unbroken girl.
Scares the shit out of him.
Yep.
And that is one more way that he can try to control her and torture her. But guess what, bitch? That's not how it's going to go down.
Nope, you about to lose your eye.
So she basically, her thing is that she's going to try to convince him that she's turned the tide, turned everything around in her mind, and she now wants to please him.
Right, because she wants to be like, yep, you broke me.
Yeah, you broke me. Okay, you win. Let's go do the dirty in the garden or whatever. And
she tries to get him alone, is basically
she tries to get him alone.
Which works.
Yes, but he knows what she's doing, I think. And so
he's paranoid. He's like, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no way. And I'm just going to show her that this is not who's in charge and this is not going to work. So they come to a head on that front and scuffle about. And hey, guess who shows up?
My poor baby Zell.
Poor baby Zell shows up and does our girl a solid and dies for it.
Yeah, she is the unsung hero.
She is the unsung hero. So basically, Leia ends up stabbing the king
stupidly in his eye and then in his jugular, kind of. But I guess his hide is so thick and the knife is tiny that she doesn't quite nick the fucking carotid. Somehow, I don't understand this. But drama.
Sure.
Sure, Jan.
Yeah, anyway, so she basically thinks that she's killed the king.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that she's killed the king. And guess who else shows up? It's Ren. Ren's here to save the day as well. Yay, Ren's here.
And Kenzo, because Nadia showed up. And she's like, I'm going to defend my man.
Yep. So Kenzo and Nadia go fight it out.
Yep.
And Ren and Leia get the fuck out.
Literally.
That's pretty much book one, really.
Oh, no. That is book one, but then the author at the end's like, the king's alive. And it's like, fuck you, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, but guess what? King's not dead. Leia didn't kill him. There are 2 more books. You know he's not dead. That bitch is alive. The shamans are using all the magic in the world to mend him again.
Literally, they are using all of the magic in the world. And that's kind of where we end. So there's more book 2 and 3 are not centered around SA, which is great. It's more about the inevitable political upheaval that's happening. It's more so life outside of the palace as we continue with Leia. But we also get to see point of view of different characters, including Nadia, which is interesting. So the thing about this book is the essay stuff, the the gendered violence, that stuff triggers me because it's real life and it makes me really upset. So I almost didn't finish the book, but I'm glad I did. And then the other books are not really about that. So if you're into the plot, want more gay stuff, because there's way more gay stuff that happens in the other books, keep reading the trilogy. That's all I'm saying.
I'd also like to say that I really dig the magic system in the books.
Yes.
And you get to see in book 2 what that means for Ren, because
Yes.
she
Yeah.
is basically
Mhm.
giving her life force to use all of this magic to help them, be safe.
Yeah, it goes more into like how the cost of magic basically, and it's a lot more into Ren and her backstory. So if you're into Ren, keep reading.
I'm into Ren.
Keep reading.
I will.
If you want to see a matriarchy, read book 2. If you want to see just gay stuff in general,
I did love that part.
read more. Me too.
Exactly.
I get to the matriarchy. I'm like, thank God there's a matriarchy somewhere in this fucking world. It's great.
Of course, it's the frickin' birds.
It's the birds, spoiler, but it's great.
So yeah, I recommend getting through the first book, and Theora recommends reading the other 2 books. I recommend it as far as I've read the second book. Was really nice to see their relationship continue and the trouble, like all the kind of trials and tribulations that they went through as far as I read. But great queer representation, IMO in fantasy, because you get to see it in. I love the relationship between, what is his name? Big Owl Man.
Oh,
They ride on his back
I
to
know.
escape
I have to think of his name. Oh shoot! Damn it!
This is my fault for not for being a bad podcast person. I'm sorry, everyone.
Podcast fail.
Podcast fail me.
Crap, what is his name? Hold on. Wait.
Do I have to get the book?
You might. Because again, I didn't read the names. I just heard them. So I'm trying to like rifle through the Rolodex.
Look, I even made all of these freaking...
I know you did. We didn't use we had notes. We didn't use a damn thing. We just freestyled this whole episode.
I just want you to know that every single purple thing is a gay thing in this book, and there's so much purple.
Oh God, what is his name?
Hold on, I'm about to find this. Oh, by the way, the world's called, or the country's called Akara.
It is.
Leopard boy looks at me. Marin,
thank you. Well, Bao, yeah.
Bao. Okay, so Bao and Marin. Bao is a leopard,
enemies to
leopard
lovers.
boy, enemies to lovers story.
Yeah,
so cute.
No, seriously, book 3. So okay, spoiler, that happens in book 2. There's way more gay stuff in book 3. Like, it's just like the author's just like, everybody's gay in book 3. Just everyone. Gay. Everyone. You meet Ren's ex. Like, there's so much stuff.
Oh,
I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's speaking of jealousy and ridiculousness.
Juicy. Yeah. I'm into it. Okay.
There's so much.
So yeah.
So much stuff. Anyway,
keep reading. Lots of queer.
Reading. So much. Okay, so how much would you hydrate? I would say this is a lesbian Jesus hydration scale based on red and lead.
Agree.
How much would you hydrate?
I'm gonna go with, this is a hard one, because
that's not what she said on the lesbian Jesus hydration scale, by the way.
I'm gonna go with 7.
That's a good one. I'm gonna rate this book. I would give this book a 5 personally, because the essay stuff deducted a lot of points for me, just personally. But overall, it's a very good book. The thing I really love the most about it, aside from the gay stuff, is I love the Asian culture stuff. I thought that was the biggest strength of the book. I love how that was weaved into everything. Not just like one culture, but like she mentioned multiple things of like somebody owning a sari shop and like the food. And it was just naturally weaved into everything. And like the shaman, the chi, all of that stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And we need more of that in general in media. Personally.
So to put a little note on that, the author Natasha Ngan is of Chinese and Malaysian descent. So You have a lot of Malaysian and Chinese influence in
Yeah.
this.
It was great. So I would give it 5. The trilogy as a whole, I would give a 7 for
Mhm.
like queer representation, because that just ramps up. It gets more into like the political stuff, more into people's backstories, like other characters that are much more fleshed out. You get more into like the magic stuff and like, which I enjoy personally in
Me too.
fantasy world building. So I thought that as the story went on, the trilogy had more strengths for me personally than like the first book, which is
Yeah.
really like a setup and was mostly palace stuff. So that's
This
how
is
much I would
not
rate.
something you want to read standalone. You want to go
Mm-mm.
into this knowing that you have to read all 3
Read all
books.
3 books. Honestly, it gets better in my opinion. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So we got our hydrations, and now I think it's time for you to announce next book club.
Okay, I have to pause. Kaitlynn, pause this. I have to go get the book because I'm going to read something out of it. So just give me a second.
Go.
Yeah. So, next book club. We're going to do a book that I've been dying to read since I found out it was going to become a TV show in 2024. And that book is Big Swiss, baby. Big Swiss, big Swiss, big Swiss. Okay, so this is Jen Bagan's book. It's about sapphic stuff, which is wonderful. And it's described as a brilliantly original novel about a sex therapist's transcriptionist and her wild affair with one of the patients. The protagonist is Greta, who's like a 46-year-old lost human being who becomes a sex therapist transcriptionist for somebody she calls Big Swiss. Why is Big Swiss at a therapist's office? I'm going to read you part of the transcript. And if this doesn't entice you, I don't know what will, other than the fact that Big Swiss in the show is going to be played by Jodie Comer. Just keep that in mind. So the sex therapist is asking Big Swiss about what's going on and why is she here. And Big Swiss says, I'm here because I don't have orgasms. Greta, who's reading this and transcribing, says, oh. Big Swiss says, I've never had an orgasm in my life, even by myself. Greta says, out loud, to no one. Come again? Big Swiss
Except
says,
not.
Big Swiss says, here's the funny part. I'm 28. I'm married. I've been married for years. I'm also a gynecologist. Greta says, is this a joke? The therapist says, are you married to a man? Big Swiss says, yes. So if that doesn't entice you to read this book, I don't know what will. It's incredible. Jen Began has she's really funny. I thought I was like actually laughing at this. It gave me like Phoebe Waller-Bridge vibes in terms of like gallows humor. It's really interesting. If you're in a psychologically bad place, it may not be something to read right now, even though it deals with some deep issues like trauma and things like that. But it's presented in a comedic voice, especially Greta, whose point of view the whole book is written in. But it's really fun. I cannot wait for this series. And at the end of our book club, we're going to play a Who Would You Cast? So it's going to be a super fun book club episode. I'm so excited.
I also want to say that this book gave me Grey Gardens vibes. If anybody knows what Grey Gardens is, great. If you don't, Google machine it, because it's just, you'll figure it out.
It's so funny. But anyway, yeah. So join us next time. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Big Swiss.
Big Swiss.
Yeah. All right. So hope you enjoyed this. See you guys next time for Big Gay Book Club. Bye. And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube. Please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing, super gay content.
If you'd like to support us, check out our merch store, or join our Patreon for early access to episodes, exclusive content, and so much more.
Until next time, stay safe and hydrate for lesbian Jesus.